Hey, y'all. Hey, I know it's been a while, but we are back. Welcome back to McCrazy's Place. If it is your first time, thank you for joining us. If you are returning, thank you for coming back. As always, I am your host, XtinaMcCrazy on Facebook, aka XtinaMcCrazy on Oh Jesus. With TikTok being banned, I am same username, XtinaMcCrazy on everything. So TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Red Note, Fanbase, Lemonade, Threads. I think that's everything.
You got it all.
I think that's everything. Yeah, it's been an interesting. We can talk about that later. Anyway, I am here today with a very good friend of mine. Steffi, would you please introduce yourself? And if you would like people to be able to find you on your socials, let them know where they can find you.
Sure. So I'm Stephanie Hernandez, and my friend is McCrazy. And then my social media is Steffi's Locuras, which I probably will give it to you in the caption so you can make sure to put it in there because it's in Spanish. But yeah, so happy to be here with you, hon.
Thank you for joining me. I love you. So a little bit of background. Stephanie and I met when we both worked at the same workplace.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'll say about that.
Shall not be named.
Well, I mean, I call it the plantation, but you know, whatever. Clearly, neither of us works there anymore. And although we knew each other somewhat in passing and we were friendly, at some point, she and I were sat next to each other and became cube mates. Yeah. And at that point, they knew they fucked up.
They done gone and fucked up. The whole vibe changed when they put us in close proximity. Yeah.
Let me tell you how our cubicle was the place to be because because between my crazy and her weird.
In case it doesn't like show, right? Like look at just all this weirdness behind me, right? It's like if you could see my like art in the corner and stuff, and
Steffi's a Halloween year-round kind of person. That'll kind of give you the feel. She's a Halloween 365 days a year, like
I'm dark,
which I love, but you know.
As you say that, I'm looking at my nails and I'm like, they're all black. Like I was like, it's January. I don't know. It's not October, and I don't care.
And my favorite color is black. So what are you saying?
Okay.
Black is always appropriate.
Always appropriate.
So as we were prepping for this episode, I have all of my guests fill out a questionnaire. And so in particular, I asked Steph if there was anything in particular that she wanted to talk about. And I kind of love her answer, and we're going to go with that.
Okay.
So Stephanie is in a growth and healing and self-exploratory, I would say, stage of her life. And as someone who's been her friend for years, I got to witness some really beautiful things in the last year. And I'd like to really start, Steffi, by having you tell people about the shift when you just did it, when you just quit your job and friggin' went out into the world. And I got to see it, and I thought it was an amazing and beautiful thing. And I've really enjoyed watching it. And I would love for you to just talk about that.
Yeah, just to give some people some context and just a little bit of my background. So as a kid, I grew up pretty poor. So I attended about 15 schools throughout like kindergarten to 12th grade. There are only a couple grades, guys. There was no reason why I should have attended that many schools, but I was pretty much at a new school every single day. So for the most part,
not every single day.
Every single day I was somewhere different. I don't know. I every time I went to school, I was like, I'm not even gonna last here. Like I'm not even gonna make a home. There's no point.
But why though? Why did you switch so often? Were you guys moving or were like what was okay.
Yes, I was constantly moving. So we moved about 25 times within my childhood. And
Jesus.
sometimes it was due to eviction. Sometimes it was because, I don't know, my mom was in a mood. She didn't like the house. She wanted something bigger, whatever. Whatever it was, I was constantly moving. So for the most part, I am self-taught. And so I grew up in the office, the school office. Like, I mean, I filled out forms, I did all that paperwork. My parents are immigrants. So really like that responsibility fell on me really early on. But because of that,
Translating and all of that kind of stuff.
yeah, totally.
Okay.
And then, because of that, I like developed some love for like the process. Cause I mean, what else are you gonna do? You're doing it so damn often, you might as well figure it out, right? And so I fell in love with education, and I just continued on in that. I got my degree, did my bachelor's, and I got into working in education. And I was in education for about 12 years. About 12 years. And then, and here's the downside of that, is that I'm my personality type is that I like to give back to the community. I like to help people. However, being Latina, being firstborn, that means you're used to giving and not getting much in return. And so I found myself in 2020, was it 2023 or 2024? 2023. Starting to feel the effects of like my cup draining. And
Burnout. You burned
yeah,
out, bro.
burnt out. I burnt out hard. And I still was resistant. I mean, I think it was at some point in August, I was feeling the burnout. And my husband was saying, like, I think it's time for you to find another job or like just quit for the love of God. Just quit, right?
Killing you.
He was like, how do I still have some sense into her? I just like I was so resistant to it. But we got married, and a couple weeks before we got married in July of that year, he asked me like, "What have you always wanted to do that you feel like you're not going to get a chance to do now that like, you know, we're moving through the world and we're married and we're supposed to be doing all these things, right? We're supposed to be having a house and a baby and whatnot, right?"
Keyword supposed to. I love Steffi's husband, by the way. Just can I tell you guys, I love her husband. I love him for her. Being her friend, I got to see her move through some other relationships and seeing this one start and bud and how it's grown and watching her fucking glow from being loved properly. I love her husband. I just want to, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I love my husband too. I really do.
Of course you do.
I do.
And I
I
would
really
kick your ass if you did it because, girl,
I would kick my own ass. Don't worry about it.
the number of people who want what you have.
I really, and I feel blessed. Like I always tell people, like, I love my husband and I feel blessed. And I was like, trust me, like, I don't need anybody to tell me, like, you're so lucky. I'm like, trust me. God, the universe could not have bestowed it on anybody more like accepting of it and recognizing that it is a blessing. So like I feel blessed every day. So I will definitely say that. And so when he asked me this question of like, what did you always wanted to do and you never got a chance to? And I told him like, I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to travel. My parents are immigrants, so we obviously never got the opportunity to travel. And, we just never financially were able to do it either. So it's not exactly something that's always been possible for me, but I always wanted to do it. And I had a plan to actually travel a little bit before the pandemic happened to travel. And then I met my husband and I just decided to stay because I wanted this guy just seems amazing. I was like, wait, I need to see this through. And I stopped my plans for going out and traveling on my own. And I'm glad I did, because when he asked me that, it like brought that back to me. And he was like, I want to talk about this, but like obviously we're about to get married and there's like a lot of things we got to do before that. So let's just get married. Let's table this conversation. Let's have this conversation sometime in like August or September. And I said, all right. So we did. So now I'm having the burnout, and September comes around and I say, hey, listen, we had tabled this conversation. It's on our calendar. I don't know if we want to have it. He said, yeah, tell me what your plan was. And I was like, my plan was to like travel through Asia. And he was like, how are you going to do that? I'm like, I don't know, sell my car, get a loan, get a job over there. I don't know. I was going to figure it out. And he pretty much said, can you get me the numbers? Can you do an estimate of what it would cost to do a trip like what you're recommending, right? Or what you're saying? And I said, all right. And so I came back and I think I did like 4 scenarios. Mind you, I'm like operations. So for me, like this, doing all these hypotheticals and scenarios and, the
She's like
planning.
me. She loves a good spreadsheet.
I love a good spreadsheet. Okay. I came in practically presentation format, showed my husband, like, this is what it would run approximately, right? To travel for about 5-6 months. And he was like, oh shit, I thought it was going to be more. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, and there is a way to make it even cheaper. And he was like, okay. So he was like, what if we did this? Like, what if we really did this? What if we put on hold this idea of buying a home? What if we took all that money that we've been saving and put it towards something that's going to help us and to fill our cup? And I really sat with that for like a minute. And I think he's like, I give you until October to start making a decision on what you want to do. And October came around and more things were happening at work. And it was just confirming this of like, you cannot stay here. You got to get out of this place. So end of October came around and he said, well, what are you thinking? Right. And I said, I think we're going to do it. I think we're going to do this. Like, I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm tired of putting all my energy into this job that's not giving me anything back. And I'm going to take all that energy and I'm going to start planning something for us. And so, yeah. So Thanksgiving break came around the corner. We ended up going into the woods because we're campers. We're those type of people. And I remember, and of course, I'm a huge fan of marijuana. Mary J has always had a good place in my heart. And so, got high in the woods. And I finally had this moment of like peace. And I was staring at this tree for the longest time. Okay. And my husband just looked at me and he's like,
bro, what kind of weed did you smoke?
I know, girl. It was the type of weed that had you like, oh shit. I really was high. I was high out of my mind. And because I was so tired. I was so tired. This was it. This was like my break from my own self, right? And I was looking at this tree for the longest time. And my husband was like, oh my gosh, welcome back, babe. And I was like, what? He was like, welcome back. He's like, it's been a minute. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it dawned on me on what he was talking about. I had been so in my head, so overwhelmed for so long that this was the first time in months that I had finally been peaceful, right? And he was like, welcome back. Like, I missed you. And I was like, how long have I been like this? He's like, it's been a while. It's been a while. And I got so apologetic and I was like, I'm so sorry. I did not realize like how stressed out I've been, that I haven't even been enjoying life with you. I was like, we've just been like going and going and going. And he's like, it's okay. Like, we've got things coming up. It's okay. So December came around and we decided to pack up our house and give up the apartment that I had been living in for about, I don't know, 10 years. And which was my first stable home because, again, I had moved 25 times in my childhood. This was the first stable home that I had had. And we did that. I did that for myself. So to give up this home was I grieved it. I'm not even gonna lie. I definitely grieved it.
It was a big step.
It was a big step. It was a big step. And so we packed up our home. We turned in our key to our landlord. I sold my car. And I walked in 2 days at the start of our spring semester, which I think was like January 4th or 5th or something like that. And I gave a 3-day notice to my job that my last day would be Friday. So it was Wednesday and my last day was Friday.
She was like, bitch, after Friday, I ain't coming back here.
And it really was, right? And we already had a flight. We had a flight that Monday. And I was like, fuck that. I'm making sure I can't back down from this decision. There is no going back, right? Which then started this new journey of starting that year of 2024. By like January 9th, we were already in Thailand. And we were there for a couple of months in traveling through Southeast Asia. And it's been an adventure. Got back to LA, put in a transfer.
Instagram stories look like a goddamn travel blog. It was so fucking beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. This trip was amazing. And it was a lot of self-reflection. I think I tell people this story sometimes, and depending on where they are in their life, right?
Actually, not to change the subject, but have you thought about dabbling in photography?
I have. I'm working on some
stuff. Wondering, because watching your Instagram stories was everything. You take fucking phenomenal pictures. Continue, please.
I tell the people this story, and every person, depending on where they're at in their life, right? Where they are emotionally in their journey of growth, right? Here's my story with very, very different lens, right? Some people will say, oh, she's just showing off. Other people, but I have found a lot of people who would be like, I've always wanted to do that, never knew how to do it. Can you share that with me, right? And this just starts this whole other conversation, right? Or I've had a couple people ask me like, what was that like as like a Latina, as a woman, to make a decision like this, that, by the way, culturally is not okay. I became homeless, carless, and jobless. All within.
Yeah, but you weren't down on Skid Row, bitch. You were in Thailand.
It's true. But still, in the eyes of my family, right? My dad was like, oh my gosh, you're about to be 30. And how can you be jobless, carless, and homeless, Stephanie? Like, this is not okay.
It was a choice, Dad.
It was a choice. I promise. It was a conscious decision. And he was like, that makes it worse.
Not really, because do you know how much thinking and planning and prepping goes into that? It wasn't a spur of the moment decision. It was months of planning and thinking it out.
Yes. But that's the part that like people don't often understand, right? Which is like, it wasn't a light decision. It wasn't like I woke up one day and said, fuck it, put a couple clothes into my backpack and just bought a ticket and left, right?
Although I have heard there are people that have done that and it has worked.
And honestly, kudos, because my anxious ass could never, but right. I gotta give props to the people who can do something like that. My gosh, like all
absolutely.
I was like,
look at you with no anxiety. Look at you being a not anxious ass person.
What's that like? Tell me.
Lucky bitch.
I really was like, I have fun telling this story, but I also, as I think about it, I've come across a couple of people like, what was that like to stop, right? Because I probably started working really early on, well before I was 18, and like I've never stopped, right? And so this idea of resting, I really underestimated. I thought it was going to be easy peasy showing up to Thailand. I'm like, I'm just going to rest. It's going to be a vacation for like 4 or 5 months. I'm going to rejuvenate myself. It's going to be great.
Find a Thai tree to stare at.
And I'm just going to come back a whole new person, enlightened. No, that's not what the fuck happened. I just tell this story every time we got to Thailand. Thankfully, we started in a place where I had already been. I had gone once before by myself. So I started there because it was familiar with me and I thought that would be an easier transition. So we got to Chiang Mai, Thailand. And we got there. My husband was like, we need to eat dinner. It's been a couple of hours. Like, it's been crazy of traveling, right? And so we get to this restaurant and there's two TVs. There's a TV behind my head, and there's a TV behind Jose's head. The TV behind mine, Jose's looking at all the delicious food of Thailand and the massages and all the waterfalls. And he's so pumped. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're in Thailand. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the TV behind his head, and that one has diseases that are currently happening, a pandemic, like. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, where did I fucking bring us? What did I do? We're gonna die. My
Perspective.
And the fear kicked in. The fear kicked in hard. Those first couple of days or weeks that I was there, it kicked in really hard, and I started to like second guess everything. And then I was stuck on like, what the fuck does it mean to rest? Which was really hard, really hard. And I think it did. It took me about 3 months to finally rest, to not rush eating, not walk with like an intention to get somewhere, but just kind of stroll, which is crazy.
3 months.
3 months. 3
Yeah,
months.
that was half the trip.
Girl. 3 months. 3 months of just like, fuck. And yeah, it took me a while. It took me a long time.
But then
today is not the same problem, and today it's a very different problem. But I've been very fortunate, and we did really well. We got back to LA. We put in a transfer.
No. You do not get to skip over how you got fucking certified to do like actual official Asian fucking yoga from the origin, and you do not get to skip over that.
No. What ended up happening was I really did get stuck on this idea of like, I was so unmotivated and so, I don't know. I was really thinking back.
You were burned out, Mama.
I really was.
You were burned out.
And
there's no other like.
I really was like, I do not want to go back to education. It's left such a bitter taste in my mouth, and I do not want to go. And I was so resistant towards it. But I also was thinking, then what the fuck are you gonna do? Right? What are you gonna do to survive? So I started doing yoga while I was there in Asia, and I had some really great teachers who started showing me modifications and started showing me all these things to like heal, and it started helping. It really started helping, and I thought, this is crazy. First of all, I had never seen, growing up in LA, right? I had really never seen a yoga teacher that wasn't white, skinny, and bendy as fuck. Okay, let me just start there. And I started. Right? Okay, we've all
bendy as fuck.
We've all been at some yoga studio at least once, right, in our lifetime. Someone out there is like, yeah, I've been to a yoga studio. I did not like it. Most often, that's what I hear is like, I went to a yoga studio. Every bitch had like their foot behind their head, and I just thought, this is not for me. and walk the fuck out. I was like, that is real. That is real. And I've also heard of people being like, well, I've never heard of it, but it sounds like a very white thing to do. And there's a lot of stuff around yoga, right? And
I mean, I'm trying to keep my negativity out of it, but come on, we know white people colonize everything, so they fucking colonized yoga.
Yes, and because LA, right? We're like hustle and grind in LA,
and it's trendy. It's trendy here, is what it is.
Yes, the yoga clothes is trendy. You're not even practicing yoga, but you're in a yoga outfit because that's the trend.
Whoa. Hold on, I draw the line there because comfort is comfort. Damn it,
and it is comfortable. That's why it's a trend.
Because I have never done yoga a day in my life, but you may catch me looking like a fucking yoga instructor.
Because it's fucking comfortable. That clothes is comfortable as fuck. Okay, I'm not even gonna lie.
Okay, what else are you gonna be bendy as fuck in?
I was like, how else am I gonna put my foot behind my head? Yeah, no, it is. It's extremely comfortable, but also it's seen as an exercise, which is how I've done it for most of my life, which is you go into a class, you stay there for an hour, and then you get the fuck out of there because you got to get to work. And so like everything's about go, 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 go. So to get to Eastern, to Asia and start doing Eastern yoga, which is much more meditative, which focuses on breathing, which focuses on meeting your body where it's at. I fell in love with it. And somewhere in Laos, I just decided, I came across this program that was a 200-hour training program for like a teacher certification. And I just thought like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And we were already going to go to Bali. So decided like, let me just find a program in Bali and I'll just do it. And before I could turn back, Jose made me pay it. People said, pay this shit now so you can turn back as well. And
yeah, Jose, he's so good for her.
He really is.
He always knows what you need.
He's like, pay it. You're paying now. But
no, but he always knows what you need, and I love that for him and for you.
He does, and at the same time, like I always tell people, like communication is so essential, and it really, like, mind you, we have a really good relationship even prior to this traveling, right? But when we traveled, that was when it really like tested our relationship. Because there's no distractions. There is no work.
There's no going to work. There's no,
There's no work. There was no like socializing with friends. Not really. He was a PC gamer. So, every Friday night he was gaming with the boys. There was none of that because we didn't take any computers or technology with us other than our cell phones. There was no, we were sharing a space. Most often we had a hotel room or an Airbnb. That's a 1-bedroom typically, right? So we were in like enclosed spaces in a cold country where we don't speak the language. We don't understand the transportation system. Airports can be stressful as fuck.
You guys were literally figuring out life together.
Yes, we were literally figuring out life together. And one of the things that we also had to learn to do, which is I'm a very, I don't want to say controlling, but I am. I'm not going to lie. It's like I'm a little bit controlling. I'm a control freak. And I've always had to be independent, right? So I'm used to being in charge. It didn't help that I also was like an operations manager, already moving towards a director role, right? Like that is my shit. I'm used to being...
You run shit.
I run shit. Like I'm used to being in charge. But right now this was about me resting and like letting go. So it meant that Jose had to step up and be the lead, which was also for him. He's like, I'm a great supporter. He's like, that has always been He said that's been my main thing. I'm great at supporting. I have no interest in leading. I have no interest in like being in charge of shit. Like my ego is not tied to that. He's like, but I will support the fuck out of you. But like, I was like, no, you gotta lead for this trip. Like you gotta take charge, and I need to take a seat, like a back seat. Like I really need to just
If
let
I'm
you.
really gonna rest.
If I'm really gonna rest, like I really need you to take lead. So that was a lot of conversation. That was a lot of communicating, like my needs, being honest, trying not to feel guilty. Him and his learning curve, trying to meet him where he's at, me playing the supporting role, me learning patience. It was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah, it's not for the weak. It is not for the weak.
But y'all are not the weak. Look at y'all now. Mm-hmm. Look how it worked out.
It's true.
And that was only in your first year of marriage. Like, y'all are still in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah. I mean,
and you've done the hard shit.
We did the hard shit. Yeah, we really
in your honeymoon phase. Do you know how well you guys are set up for success if you just continue to love each other?
Yeah, I won't deny it. Plus, part of this resting process was also me taking therapy. So I started taking therapy while I was in Asia, and yeah.
Anybody who has started their therapy journey knows you go in and they find all kind of shit wrong with you that you had no idea about. You don't know what kind of shit you got buried deep down in there. And then go with a fucking almost like a metal detector, and they're like, I hear, yep, bing, 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 bing. Look at what I found.
Fuck that shit. You know what? There was days, and I still to this day, I tell my therapist all the time, I'm like, I do love you. Like I love you for being so supportive, for creating this space for me. But I'm not gonna lie, there are days where I look at you and I like, if I could talk you through this screen, how dare you ask me to slow down? How dare you make me repeat myself? How dare you make me feel this stuff? And she's like, that is normal. She said, if you want to sock me, I'm not doing my job.
Girl, the number of times I saw my therapist like, yay, new trauma. Like, oh, I didn't know that was a traumatic occurrence. I just thought that was normal life.
It's, you know what, every time I was like, God dang it, like this one I say shit. I was like, I just got over that, right? And I really did. I got into the space of like anger. I mean, my anger was real. I want to say like month 4 of my therapy journey, I was angry as hell. I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? I didn't even start this problem. I'm not the like I didn't ask to be born. The fuck? Why am I dealing with these problems? Yeah, I was really angry. And then a friend came to me and said, why are you angry? Like, what do you have to be angry about? And she was like, hey, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, really, genuinely, like, do you really need to do therapy to grow? Like, is it essential? And I really sat with that for a minute. I'm like, fuck, she's not lying. Like, I really am doing this to myself. Like, no one is forcing me to do this. No one is like holding a gun to my head. Like, I'm
true,
angry.
but the second part is the second question. Is it essential?
Is it essential? And I really sat with that for, I think, like 2 weeks. And then I started looking around at my family and I realized, yes, it is.
It's fucking essential. What's the saying? We go to therapy because the people who need it won't.
In that moment, I realized, like, oh shit, that's why. Because I have been surrounded by people who have never gone to therapy, and it shows.
And I don't want to be that.
And I don't want to be that. I don't want to. I was like, what the fuck?
Is that what I have to look forward to with no therapy? Okay, no, that's okay. Can I get extra therapy, please?
But you're still getting patient with the process too, right? Like, I mean, dude, that's part of the process as well of therapy, of like, well, how long is this going to take me? Because we keep digging and you keep finding shit. I was like, how deep is this well that we're going into? Because, bitch.
Honey, it's generational.
And that was the lesson, right? She's like, a lot of this stuff is generational. And I'm like, fuck me. And why do I have to break it? Then, you repeat again the grieving process.
I mean, you don't have to, but do you want to play into it?
Exactly. And I was grieving all of it, to be honest. And I've been continuously grieving. The process has been good and it has been challenging. So, here we are now.
It's painful.
It is.
It is absolutely painful.
Yeah, no one talks about that.
No one talks about how much grief comes with it. Nobody talks. And I think some people know, and that's why they won't go. Because when you really go and do the work and do the self-introspection, you can't hide from what's in there. No. You have to face it all head on. And that's not easy.
Who is it? I really didn't understand it. I studied psychology, by the way. I studied psychology, so I understood the importance of therapy. But again, financially, that's not doable for everyone. And when I was surviving, it just wasn't doable. So now that I'm in this place, right, where I can finally get therapy.
And then you don't really know what it entails until you do it.
No, you really don't. I really underestimated this process, and I keep saying it. Everybody asks me, I underestimated this process, and it came back and slapped the living out of me. Like, and it wasn't even like a bitch slap. Like, it was a solid, like, knocked me the fuck out.
Are you sure it wasn't a roundhouse kick?
It was a roundhouse. I was hit with a whole ass combo. I don't even know.
It was some Cobra Kai shit.
I was like, I've gotten my ass whooped. It's official. Like, I was like, I didn't even put up a fight. Like, I didn't square up anything. I was done. I was out.
I'm dead.
I'm gonna lay down and take it at this point. It's fine. It's been a bitch. It's been a bitch.
Girl.
I know you know. I know you know.
Girl.
I mean, and it's crazy. It really is crazy to see, because it changes your perspective on like how you even interact with others. Once you start to understand yourself and you start to realize like, oh, I'm not really an angry person, but I've been like me personally, I'm seen as an angry person within my family. Everybody thinks I have a temper. Everybody thinks like I'm extra as fuck, and I remember when my husband met my family for the first time, they were like, how do you put up with her? How do you like, oh man, she must be like.
How do you ask somebody that?
Girl. And I knew it. I knew they were going to ask. I knew they were going to say these things. So I had already told Jose these things beforehand, right? And I really did love his response in that of like, he was like, well, it's interesting that you say that because the version of Stephanie that you seem to know is the version you know, because it's not the version I know. My wife is very different. My wife is not angry unless she's been tried, right? Unless you've been coming at her a certain type of way, she's not going to meet you with that type of resistance. So, a matter of fact, in the entire time that he and I have been together, I have really only been angry and frustrated with him probably a handful of times. Because for the most part, he does not approach me that way, right? He doesn't come at me with machismo. He's not coming at me from left field, calling me a bitch. Like, he's not doing anything to get me to that point. However, my family has known my triggers and knows the buttons because most of the buttons have been installed by them. And so
Generational.
obviously
Or they are the trigger.
obviously I get angry. But this is just the way. There's so much that we understand now that I'm like, oh my gosh, now that I understand myself, I now look at my dad differently. I now look at my mom in a different light. My conversations are happening very differently. I can hear when someone is stuck now because I've experienced stuckness and I know what that feels like. And I'm like, oh shit, like that's where you're at. Who am I to tell you different?
Yeah.
Who am I to tell you what to do? Who am I to like push you? Like honor yourself, girl. Be stuck. Live in that
It
grief.
does. It truly changes not just how you deal with people, but how you interact with the world as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
How you react to things, how you intake. I don't know if that's the right word, but like how you internalize things, how you talk to people, how you even for me, it was even how I viewed animals. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was everything changed. It changes.
You know, you're 100% right because you, especially right now with your puppy, who is now in her like, I heard you a couple of times talking about her, and it was so funny because I was like, oh my gosh, the way she's describing it, like, yeah, she's in her puppy phase, she's in her like reckless phase, she's in her teenage years, she's talking back, like, and and I thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is she talking about? And then I saw it, right? And like, she just wants attention. She just wants love. She just wants these things, right? And I'm like, that is what we should have gotten as well, that level of understanding.
Yeah.
But we didn't, right? And so, but it's beautiful to now see it. Like, even the animals have this type of personality that you're like, yeah, they too go through these phases. Just
Yeah,
like
it's really about meeting everyone and everything where they're at, like you said, because they are who and what they are, and that's just it. You can't change that. You can't force it to be what you want it to be. You have to meet everything and everyone where it's at. And it's so funny. One of the dog dads, he's always like, oh, you're such a good dog mom. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, because, I watch the people on the internet who are like phenomenal dog parents. But in thinking about it, what he was talking about and what he refers to and stuff, it's just like I've learned to read her body language. I've learned to read her, her expressions and her movements to where I just know what it is she needs or, how to, and she knows how to communicate with, like we communicate. Yep. And it's so funny because my sister used to tell me, oh, you're just supposed to give her short one-word commands. And I'm like, she does have short one-word commands. I was like, but it's just me and her. So I do like I would with a baby. I just talk to her all the time. Okay, we're doing this. We're doing XYZ. Okay, this. And so she recognizes certain words and reacts accordingly. Do you want walkies? She'll let me know. And then she'll go to my bedroom door and sit there because she knows I need to go get my shoes.
She's like, well, if you can hurry the fuck up, how dare you offer me something and not hurry up?
I'll be like, do you want walkies? And she lets me know because she'll sit right in front of me and stare at me. And so I'll run through the things. Okay, well, are you hungry? Do you want a snack? Do you want walkies? Do you want, I run through. And when I get to whichever one it is she wants, she'll stand up and kind of like wag her tail. Like, yeah, that's the one. And so I told her, you want walkies? And so she did that. And I was like, okay, mommy has to get her shoes. And then she'll go and she'll sit in front of my bedroom door. Like, okay, come on, go get your shoes.
I still love that. And it's a beautiful, like, I think it's a beautiful experience to have because, you know, you're a mom, right? And you
Mhm.
think about also, you're like, how did I do it when I was with my children? How did my mom do it with me? And because a lot of it, like you said, is generational, right? We learn some of this stuff, but until we start doing self reflection, you start to realize, like, oh shit, like I did pick up certain habits that I got from my mom.
Look,
And
I hold guilt with my adult children because I didn't start therapy until they were grown up already. And sometimes I even feel guilty about the mom that my dog is getting that my kids probably could have benefited from. But I digress. I can only know what I know at the time.
and that's it. That's the truth, right? We only know what we know until we unlearn it. Like we're just repeating the cycle, and it's never been brought to our attention. And a lot of us are still we're so deep in survival that we never like stop to, you know, self reflection is a privilege. Therapy
Yeah.
is a privilege. A lot of this stuff is a privilege. And if you don't have it because you're too busy surviving, like don't feel bad about it. You were surviving. You did what you could in those moments.
And thankfully, they're starting to realize how important it is to deal with your mental health. So there's a lot more resources. I just saw a commercial the other day. I think it's called Soluna, and it's
Oh
like
yeah.
this app or something that's free for like people 13 to 25 who are going through things. And I thought that was such a beautiful thing. Like they're trying to make therapy or at least some sort of counseling a thing for people because they're realizing that like
It's a
people are getting to
necessity.
a boiling point and fucking losing their shit.
It, it's a necessity, right? We all need to learn about ourselves, right? And I also recently just told, you know, I came across a friend and she was saying, you know, therapy, I want to do it, but it's like $140 a session. I'm like, girl, why are you paying $140 per session? Um,
No,
because
sweetie,
it's
do
not
your
doable.
research.
Yes, I was like, no, it's not doable, right? It's not sustainable. You want to go
And
to
if
therapy.
you have medical insurance, look at what your options might be there because a lot of therapists will take your medical insurance as well so that you only pay
Exactly.
a copay.
And you know, I was telling her also about like Open Path, which has like I think like $65 for like a lifetime membership. And you get to find therapists who are also on like a pay scale where you get to decide like maybe the minimum is like $40 a session and it can go anywhere up to 140, and like you can go and get your therapy for $40 like a session. You can do that.
Yeah,
It doesn't
there
need to
are
be,
options.
there are options. But we just need to take the stab and do it, right? And find what works for us. Because I also have made the mistake of having, you know, a white therapist, which is really difficult because I'm finding myself constantly having to explain like my situation, my culture, versus now I have a Latina therapist and I'm very fortunate in which she has been able to be like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's cultural. That's cultural. That's
because when the kids,
generational.
I did try therapy once when the kids were young, and he was a Jewish man. And I didn't feel like I was getting anything out of therapy, so I stopped going. And
Mm-hmm.
then that was because at that time, I mean, when the kids were little, right? Because they're not so little anymore. That was a long time ago. I didn't know that you have to work on finding the right therapist for you and somebody who understands the nuances. And let me tell you, having a female Black therapist has made everything different.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Yes.
said, there's things you don't have to explain that
No.
you would have to explain to, especially a white therapist. Um, and I don't believe any, well, maybe not any, but I don't believe for the most part women should have male therapists because there's just certain things they're not going to understand.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to find what works for them. I recently just talked to this guy and he said, you know, I do have a female therapist, but she's Latina, and he's like, and her approach is exactly what I need because I know myself, right? So I need a little bit more of like, I don't want to call it heavy handed, but more of like a stern therapist who's going to make me like face my shit. Right. And I was like, I'm glad you found that for you, because to be honest, if I had that therapist would not work for me. That
Yeah.
therapist, we probably would have ended up in some type of fight. Right. I was like, and so
Well,
I'm
and
taking,
see, and
go
this
ahead.
goes back to, we've both worked in education. Different things work for different people. Some people are visual learners. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are auditory learners. Like yeah, like literally it's a relationship. And so two different people, two different dynamics, two different sets of experience. You got to find what vibes.
Yep, you have to find what vibes. And for me, one of the biggest things was when I was doing like intakes, I was telling them like logically, I understand a lot of these things, but I feel like sometimes emotionally, I'm not like, I'm not there yet, right? And, like I can understand I've struggled through abuse, right? And like I can accept it, I can forgive, I can move past it. And then, one of the therapists was like, maybe you need a somatic therapist. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Right? Because you're like, what? Oh, I think I lost you. Nope. There we go.
Yeah, my microphone died. Lovely. Yeah, what I said was, oh yeah, and I forgot that part too. There's different kinds of therapy.
There's different types. I mean, somatic therapy, for those who don't know what this is, right? It's like really tuning in with the emotions and where you store things in your body. And for me, this worked because I also had experienced this when I did my yoga teacher training. I didn't realize how much we store in our body. Now, mind you, I had read the book of The Body Remembers, The Body Keeps Score. I believe that's the title of it, Body Keeps Score, which is a really great read. So I knew that we stored memories and emotions in our body to some extent, right? But I didn't realize how once you start connecting the body and the mind, how you can actually work through this stuff much more easily, because a lot of times we're stuck. I mean, we've had something stuck in our body for so long that our body has become accustomed to it and doesn't want to let it go. Like my body's like, bitch, I have been sitting right here with our trauma for 20 years. How dare you? We just got comfortable. It's just like, we just got comfortable. I'm using it as a pillow. Like
I like the smell of that mold.
I've grown accustomed. How dare you come and take this shit from me, right? And so, and then I started to do more research on it, and I learned that like Western medicine has been finding that the fascia stores memories and emotions as well, right? Which is pretty much, the fascia is this can't do it justice on how to explain it, but it's like, just consider like a cloth that's just around all of our organs, our skin. It's everywhere. It's throughout our entire body. It's like a web, and it just stores things for us, right? Now, Eastern medicine refers to it as the meridian. And they've known for the longest time that this is what happens, which is why acupuncture works for a lot of people for releasing emotions, because they tap into the meridian. So I'm doing my teacher training yoga, and the teachers tells us like, chances are that once you start to connect the breath, your gaze, the position, you are going to start feeling emotions, and they may come up. Just let it go, right? Just let it be, surrender to it. And we all thought like, she's probably referring to exhaustion or, frustration from not being able to hold a pose or whatever. But no, come second week of our training, a lot of us are like trembling. We're all shaking. I find myself that I'm like, why are you trying to cry? Like we finished the workout. Relax. I'm like, I'm gaslighting myself. The entire thing, I'm like, stop trying to cry, right? And our teacher had to pull us to the side and was like, I am so serious right now. Like, you guys are not understanding this. You are in a safe space. You can allow your body to let go. You are working things out. You are moving energy through your body. You're bound to dislodge something that's been trapped in your body for a while, and it needs to come out. So if it's crying, if it's wailing, if it is whatever the fuck it is, let it go and just be. She should never have told us that, because come next session, all of us are
Everybody's bawling.
all of us are just I mean, it was crazy. I had never experienced something like that. Never.
Yeah,
And
but did it feel good afterwards? It felt cleansing, didn't it?
it felt so cleansing. But also she was very honest of like, you're going to release it and then you're gonna grieve it. Because again, grief is
You're
not
used
something
to having it there.
you're used to having it there, right? Like grief is not just specifically to losing a loved one. It is also to like letting go of things, of like, oh my gosh, grief is in everything.
Oh my God, girl.
It's in everything. It's in everything, but no one tells you that. So, you think you're batshit crazy when you start feeling these emotions. And mind you, at this point, I'm in Bali. I'm on this little baby island off the coast of Bali. I should be happy as fuck. Every day I go into this shala, which is like this yoga studio that overlooks the ocean. And, it's great. I was looking at that ocean that second week, like, fuck this ocean. Fuck this sand. Fuck. I was so mad. I was like, you're so stupid. Why did you do this training?
Postcard, beautiful ass surroundings.
That's what I say. I was really like, you are so crazy. Like, you are batshit crazy. I was gaslighting myself. Like, you don't have a right to be like complaining. I'm like, no, 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 no. Fuck this ocean. So mad. The ocean's looking at me like, bitch, what did I do to you?
Waving.
I was like, what's her problem?
All I did was wait.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. Like now I look back at it and I laugh, but I think about it, like I was going through grief and I was mad at everything. I was mad at the world. I was mad at myself. I was going through grief.
Yeah.
It's the process. It's the process. I don't know what to tell you.
All right. So you did all that and then you came home, and now what?
I came home and my husband put in for a transfer and we decided to leave LA because it just, and I'm an LA native. I love LA. I really do. But it's just not the space in which I want to continue to grow in. And I needed more nature.
Honey, it's not conducive to slowing down.
It's not. It's not. It's not. And so we moved to Seattle. And so now we're living here in Seattle and I have been resting. We still had another travel that we did in Europe for I think the month of October. And we have been back and forth. And I think finally up until November, we finally were able to like say, that's it. We're not traveling anywhere. We're going to stay put. We're going to rest. We're going to come into our home. And so, yeah. So like for the last couple of months, we've just been resting, but I feel myself right now in this like really interesting transition where I'm like, okay, I went from like hustle and grinding every day, all day, to then fully resting, to moving my life, to getting things to what I want, to resting once again and figuring out how to rest now that we are at home in the place that we're going to be staying for a while. And now it's like this transition of like, I want to do the next thing. I want to grow and I want to grow in a new career and I want to take, more classes and I want to build community. But I'm in a weird stage of like not closing the chapter of rest, but realizing like this part of rest, I need to learn how to incorporate it with hustle. And there needs to be a balance. And I haven't figured out that just yet. But once I do, like, I'm ready. I think I'm starting to feel that level of excitement of like, I'm ready. I'm ready to like start doing things for myself. I'm ready to start taking care of me. I'm ready to like go out there and share some of my knowledge. So I'm excited for what comes next, but I have to also learn to be patient with like the transition. I can't rush it.
Transition is just uncomfortable anyway, so you just have to realize that that's what it's going to be for a little while.
Yeah, and I'm trying to learn how to honor that, which is really hard. You know, when you're so used to like giving into other people, and you know, to learn how to honor yourself, that's hard. It's really hard.
Oh, I am beyond proud of you.
Thank
It
you.
has been absolutely phenomenal to watch. I feel fortunate to have had a front row seat to watch it all. You look genuinely happy. You look great. You look fucking great, friend.
Thank you,
And
Mama.
you look happy.
I am. I can genuinely say right now that I am happy and I am at peace. Not that I'm expecting it to always be this way, but I know that it really does have to do with like my state of mind more than anything, and so that external things no longer impact me. But I'm also happy
Or
because
so that your genuine happiness is not affected by the bullshit that you have to deal with on a day to day. Because shit's
yeah,
gonna happen.
shit's gonna
But
happen.
you have worked on your core happiness and continue to work on your core happiness, and just you look genuinely happy. And I've told you this before. Jose, like, he brings this glow to you that, like, you look so happy, and I am so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, I'm proud of myself. And I recognize that like my husband has been a huge contributor to that. And because he's taught me and he's pushed me and he's challenged me to learn how to love myself, how to be happy by myself, right? And the responsibility of my happiness doesn't lie in his hands, but in mine. And that's been, you
But
know,
he'll
that
support the fuck out of you.
but he'll support the fuck out of me, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's really beautiful to see that I'm like, yeah, he, this man, is not gonna let me just do whatever the fuck I want. Not like that. He's not gonna let me just let myself go. Like, he really is pushing me. But I am proud of myself, of the work that I've done. I'm happy of the support system that I have because, like you, like, I really do appreciate your friendship. I have so many amazing people in my life, right? Who have really taken the time to like get to know me, to hear me out, who are not coming from this place of like, fuck that bitch. I hope like she fails, right? Like, who are not jealous or not envious or like, I mean, I get it. There's some people who are, they're in their feelings, right? And they can't cheer or root for anybody else because they're in
And
it.
they're miserable.
Yeah. And
And they're not working on it. You could be miserable and be working on it, which will help you like not spew that misery at other people. But if you're not working on it, you're just miserable and you're spewing it on other people.
And that's why I say I'm like, I'm really happy that like I really have amazing friends, and you have been an amazing friend who has constantly pushed me too, who has challenged me, who's been like, but you asked for these things, like accept it. Because you were there at the very beginning of my relationship with Jose and it blossoming and becoming what it is today. And I remember second guessing everything. And I remember telling you, like, I don't know if I deserve this. And you were like, bitch, if you don't, if you like, did you
I
pray
ain't
for
trying to hear that shit.
I do remember you were like, did you pray for this? I'm like, I did. He's like, did you ask for this? Did you ask the universe for this shit? It just landed. It just like you manifested it. It's here. Now you're telling me you're not gonna accept it. Like if you don't I thought I was gonna get my ass whipped for a moment. I was like, oh shit.
Bitch, if you don't get over there and grab that shit.
Which I needed. Which I
Here,
needed.
here's some tacos. You're pretty. Go get it.
I miss that. I miss that. For anybody who doesn't know, this is our inside joke all the time because we used to be, you know, working in the same space, hustling on the plantation, according to Christina.
I mean, is there any other description for it?
There wasn't. But Christina didn't used to take a lunch. And she was constantly going. And honestly, at some point, I was like, I need to feed this woman because I feel like
look how well that worked out. They appreciated that, didn't they?
I gotta feed her. I was like, because I don't know. Like, I was like, she's already stressed out, and I think hangry is only gonna make her worse.
Oh, you were looking out for yourself. You didn't want me to bite your head off. You had to share a cubicle with me.
Survival of the fittest, bitch. Like, I was like, fuck that. I'm in the same queue space. There's nobody else that she's gonna attack but me.
She's gonna eat my face.
I was like, I do look delicious.
You're so pretty.
We'd go get her tacos, and then I would tell her she's pretty, and it just became our Taco Tuesday. Every time, like anytime we.
But it didn't only have to be Tuesday.
It didn't have to be Tuesday.
We both knew when the other was overwhelmed with work. And so our thing was we would buy the other one tacos and tell them they're pretty. Mm-hmm. And I would always rub Steffi's hair when I tell her she's pretty.
The moral of the story is, ladies, get yourselves someone.
A work wife.
A work wife that will buy you tacos and call you pretty. It's necessary. It's essential.
If I may. Oh, I think you know, because I think she FaceTimed you. So after we left, the job that she quit from, I started doing independent contracting at. Mm-hmm. So I kind of worked there. So we were working together again, but she had already picked up a work girlfriend. And I was like, but what am I going to do without my work wife? And so we became a work throuple.
Mm-hmm. We became a work throuple.
So I ran into Maria at the dog park.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she immediately FaceTimed me. She's like, you will never know who I ran into. I was like, why are you calling me? I was like, I don't know you. I was like, it's my baby. It's my wife.
And we were a throuple again once more for just a minute.
For just a minute. Either way, though, Christina, you know, I always come home to the wife, the girlfriend. I love her, but
I mean, you picked an awesome girlfriend. You have great taste, so I didn't mind. I wasn't looking to be polyamorous, but it just worked out.
Meanwhile, Jose's in the background listening to all of this, like, what the fuck?
Oh, but he was so supportive. He supported the fuck out of us. All of us.
He was like, go ahead, baby. He said, well, whatever it is you need.
I think that made me love him more. He was so down with the throuple.
He was like, who am I? Who am I to change things? I came in later in the game. Who am I? Yep, he knew.
It's been so good having you. I think this was great, and I think you were really informative, and I think hopefully somebody out there will draw inspiration from what Stephanie has done, because I know I was inspired. Like, I've never known anybody to just be like, fuck it, I'm gonna quit my job and sell all my shit and just go travel around Asia for 6 months. Okay, bye.
Yeah, I really do. Like, I really love to see other women thrive. And I love seeing our friends and the people that we love thriving, because it's beautiful. We are not all the same, but if you can be inspired to do that one thing you've been allowing fear to stop you from doing, like, fuck that. Do you.
You only got one life to live.
People are always going to judge. That's the truth.
Yeah. Eh,
So, you know,
eh.
you might as well just do your thing.
Can't care what people think,
Mm-mm.
especially people who don't have your best interests at heart.
Nope. That's why I say, do you. So, thank you, mamas. I'm proud of you
Of
too.
course.
This is for creating this space. I love it. I love to see you.
You know me, I can talk my ass off, so it was kind of an easy transition.
I just needed an excuse. I just needed a space.
I did, so I created one. Come over here, I want to talk.
Oh my God.
Tell the people where to find you, friend.
Well, I'm gonna share my IG with McCrazy, and she can put it in the caption. But yeah, you guys can all find me on Tefi Lacuras, and I think as soon as I start doing more things, more stuff is gonna come. I'm gonna be putting myself out there soon. Soon.
And as always, guys, once again, if it is your first time joining us, thank you for popping in. If you are returning, thanks for coming back. I am your host, XtinaMcCrazy on Facebook, XtinaMcCrazy on everything else. Just say everything else. I am not on X, however, so there's that. I refuse. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in a month.